Welcome to Kubernetes. One of the first things we're going to talk about is, what is Kubernetes? Kubernetes is a container orchestrator. What this means is that it's Kubernetes' job to start and stop containers which depend on the administrators to set up. One of the important features of Kubernetes is the workload placement. If I needed to deploy a container application into a cluster, what we can do is end up coding that and having Kubernetes handle that for us. Kubernetes also supplies infrastructure abstraction. If I needed to deploy an application into development, I don't want to have to worry about the CPU or memory or storage utilization. We can have Kubernetes handle that workload for us. So now that we have a better understanding of what Kubernetes is and the key benefits, let's take a look at some of the principles. First is the desired state or declarative configuration. This is where we define our state in code. We define what we want to deploy, and Kubernetes does that for us. It goes and pulls the specified containers and starts them up. We write code depending on the situation, and Kubernetes does the work to bring it online. Once we define that desired state, it's up to Kubernetes to keep the system in the desired state. If we've defined that we want 10 web servers online, it's Kubernetes' job to keep 10 web servers online. We also have control loops, which constantly monitor the state of the system for the multiple resource types in Kubernetes and make sure that the system is in the desired state. Also, the API server is the core hub of information in the Kubernetes cluster. This is where we, as administrators, interact with Kubernetes and where other parts of the Kubernetes cluster interact with each other to understand the current state of the system and to make changes to that state if needed. The benefits of using Kubernetes. Now, some of the benefits of Kubernetes is speed of deployment. What I mean by this is Kubernetes gives us the ability to deploy containers extremely fast by allowing us to get the code from developers and make it into production. Another benefit is the ability to absorb change quickly, where we can get the code out quickly that needs to hit production rather than just waiting around. This can save our company a lot of time and money and make clients happy when fixes need to be pushed. Having the ability to recover quickly when we define our system and code, and we define that desired state, such as a collection of web servers, we don't have that desired state anymore, meaning a web or media server crashed, then it's Kubernetes' job to redeploy that container back to the desired state. Now let's talk about the initial setup and installation of Kubernetes. So here we can see we have one master and two nodes running on 3 different Ubuntu machines. I'm running them in VirtualBox, but you can use any hypervisor you would like. If you need help with installing Ubuntu on VMs, I'll be making a video tutorial on that later on, but for now, there are a lot of resources out there that can get you up and running. Make sure that you have full connectivity between all VMs by doing a basic ping test to see if they can communicate. I have my 3 on the 10.10.10.0 network with the /24, and this is how I have my VMs labeled. On the master, it's going to be on the .10. Node 1 is on .20 and Node 2 is on .30. I have all the host names set in each of the nodes, and each of those names is in a host file in Ubuntu with the corresponding IP address to make it easier. Even though there is only 3 nodes, if you had to do this in a production environment and had over 10 different servers or more, you could see how this would be hard to remember. It's easier to do it this way so you don't have to rely on remembering all the IP addresses. So let's get started installing some software for Kubernetes nodes. What you're seeing at the top is VS Code, which allows me to have my code at the top so I don't need to open a separate document with the code in it, and also it's great for taking notes. Right now we are currently on the master VM, as you can tell right here in the command line. The first thing we want to do is run swapoff-a. So let's go ahead and type swapoff-a, hit enter. And the reason for that is that Kubernetes scheduler determines the best available node on which to deploy newly created pods. If memory swapping is allowed to occur on a host system, this can lead to performance and stability issues within Kubernetes. And so for this reason, Kubernetes requires that you disable swap in the host system. So let's go ahead and look inside the fstab. So we'll go ahead and copy that and then paste. And at the bottom, you can see at the last line is that the swap entry file is commented out. One thing to note is that after you do this, you want to reboot the system and make sure that it's still commented out after, otherwise you will have to do this each time. So let's go ahead and exit out. Now we're going to need to add the Google's GPG key to our local app repository. And in order to do that, we'll go and copy and paste this line in, hit enter, and then it's good to go. And next we're going to add the Kubernetes app repository to our local repositories list. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this. And then we're going to hit enter. Now with that key installed and the repository configured, we will need to refresh the packages list in order for our system by typing sudo apt-get update. So we're going to go ahead and let that run in the background. We'll come back to you once it's finished. Now it's time to install some packages. I'm going to go ahead and paste this command here, the apt-get install -y. The -y tells Linux to automatically accept yes for when asked. And here you can see the Docker IO, the kubelet, the kubeadm, and the kubectl. So let's install those packages together. And what will happen is in the background is the package manager is retrieving those files, and then also the dependencies and installing them on Ubuntu for us. So now let's go ahead and execute the apt mark code, so that way these packages are no longer upgradable by the apt repository. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this. And that's pretty much it for the software installation on the master node. See you in the next video.